The arena was alive with noise, thousands of alien voices blending into a storm of sound. Their eyes burned with cruel excitement as they waited for the show to begin. They had gathered to watch something simple but deadly, the moment when a weak human would face a monster that had never lost. High above the arena floor sat the Alien Warlord, his armor shining with dark metal, his long claws tapping the arm of his throne. His voice thundered through the air, carried by speakers hidden in the walls. "Behold, the human," the warlord declared, pointing to the center of the pit. A fragile creature from a soft world, thrown into the jaws of fear. Watch how he screams before the beast devours him. The crowd cheered wildly, their laughter cruel, their hunger for blood echoing like drums. Many had already seen strong alien fighters break and cry when the monster appeared, but tonight they wanted something new. Tonight, they wanted to see how quickly a human would beg for mercy. The human stood alone on the sandy floor. His clothes were torn, his face was calm, and his hands were tied with rough chains. Yet his eyes showed no fear. He looked straight ahead, unblinking, as if the arena itself was nothing more than a stage. Whispers ran through the crowd. Why doesn't he shake? Why doesn't he cry? Does he not understand what is coming? The warlord's smile stretched wider. He loved when his audience asked questions like this. Soon, he would show them the answer. The iron gates on the far side of the arena rumbled open. The sound was deep, like thunder crawling through stone. Out of the darkness came a growl, low and heavy, that made the ground itself tremble. The alien spectators leaned forward, eyes wide, mouths open with hunger. Chains clattered. The monster stepped into the light. Its body was enormous. Twice the height of the human, covered in armored scales that shimmered in dark red and black. Its claws were long enough to slice through steel, and its teeth gleamed like rows of knives. The creature's glowing yellow eyes scanned the arena, and every alien in the stands leaned back with fear. Even though they were safe behind thick shields, this was the monster that had torn apart warriors, champions, and even prisoners, who had begged for their lives. It had never been tamed, it had never shown weakness. The very air seemed to grow heavy as it roared. Shaking the arena walls, the human did not move. He stood in place, calm, his chains dragging in the sand, as if the beast was nothing more than a curious animal. His heart beat steady. His eyes never left the creature. The warlord tilted his head, frowning slightly. He had expected the human to collapse in terror. Instead, he saw a man who refused to flinch. The beast growled again, louder this time. Drool dripped from its jaws. The chains that held it rattled as it pulled forward, eager to strike. With a snap of his claws, the warlord gave the order. "Release it," he shouted. The crowd howled in excitement. The chains were unlocked, and the monster surged forward like a storm unleashed. Its claws tore the sand. Its roar filled the air, and its eyes locked onto the human. But the human still did not move. Alien voices shouted in disbelief. Is he frozen? Is he too scared to run? Why is he still standing there? The monster charged closer. Dust rose behind it, every step pounding like a drumbeat of death. Its jaws opened wide, ready to tear flesh apart. The aliens in the stands rose to their feet, waiting for the human's scream. Yet, silence ruled the arena floor. The human's calm gaze met the beast's glowing eyes. Something strange happened, then something no one in the crowd had ever seen before. The monster slowed. Its heavy steps dragged in the sand. Its growl turned uncertain. For the first time, the beast hesitated. Gasps swept through the arena. The aliens shouted in confusion. It cannot be. The monster never stops. What trick is this? The warlord slammed his clawed hand against his throne. his fury echoing louder than the crowd. "No tricks. Tear him apart," he roared. The monster took another step forward, closer now, so close that its hot breath touched the human's face. Its claws hovered inches from his chest. The crowd leaned in, ready for the kill, but the human did not step back. He did not tremble. He only stood taller, staring into the eyes of the beast. The monster blinked. Its claws lowered slightly. The roar caught in its throat. Instead of attacking, it paused, confused, as if something deep inside its savage mind was warning it to stop. The arena, once filled with screams and laughter, grew strangely quiet. Every alien's eyes were fixed on the sight that made no sense. The human had not flinched, and for the first time, the monster of the arena looked uncertain. Asterisk. The monster's breath came out in hot waves, spreading across the human's face. Its glowing eyes stared down into his calm, steady gaze. The arena had gone silent, thousands of aliens holding their breath. Even the warlord leaned forward on his throne claws gripping the armrest tight. This was not how it was supposed to happen. The beast should have torn the human apart within seconds. Instead, the creature stood frozen, muscles tense, claws lowered, its chest rising and falling. In confusion, the human did not look away. His eyes locked with the monster's, steady and fearless, as if he was speaking without words. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Why does the beast hesitate? Has it lost its mind? Impossible. No one survives this close. The warlord snarled and slammed his fist against the metal arm of his throne. Sparks flew. Attack. He roared, his voice shaking the arena walls. Tear him open. The monster's ears twitched at the command. It growled, claws lifting again, drool dripping from its jaws. For a heartbeat, it looked ready to obey. The human still did not move. He simply tilted his head slightly, as if inviting the beast to try, and then it happened again. The monster stopped. Its glowing eyes flickered, its body shivering with a strange uncertainty. Instead of lunging forward, it stepped back. Dust shifted under its massive feet. The crowd gasped louder this time, their voices rising into angry confusion. No, it cannot. The beast fears him. This is against nature. The warlord's jaw clenched. His monstrous pet had crushed champions, burned warriors, and ripped apart entire hunting parties. Never had it shown weakness. Never had it taken a step back. Yet before this calm, unflinching human, the beast trembled. The human finally spoke, his voice calm and low, but sharp enough to cut through the arena's noise. You see strength only in claws and teeth. But even your beast knows there is power beyond that. His words echoed across the stands, translated by the arena's speakers. The aliens fell silent, their anger replaced by a cold chill. They had never heard a human speak with such certainty. The beast lowered its head slightly, as if listening. Its glowing eyes never left the man's face. The chains on its body rattled as it shifted uneasily. The creature seemed to be bowing. No one could believe it. The crowd shouted in panic. This is wrong. The warlord must stop it. Kill the human before it spreads. The warlord stood from his throne, fury in his every movement. His voice thundered like a storm. You dare defy me, beast. I made you. You obey only me. He cracked the electric whip in his hand, the sound slicing through the silence. The lash struck the monster's back. Sparks exploded across its armored scales. The creature roared in pain, its claws digging into the ground, its tail whipping through the air. The arena shook with the sound of its fury. The aliens cheered again, believing the beast's rage would now destroy the human. But the human did not move. He stood with the same calm eyes, the same steady breath. The beast turned its head back toward him. The fury in its roar began to fade. Slowly, unbelievably, it lowered its head again, this time in front of the human, not the warlord. The entire arena gasped as one. The monster was kneeling. The warlord's face twisted in rage, his fangs bared. "No, you bow to no one. Kill him," he screamed. But the monster did not move. The human's lips curved into a faint smile. Not of joy, but of quiet understanding. He reached out his hand, still bound by chains, and placed it gently against the beast's armored snout. The crowd froze, their hearts pounding as they watched the impossible. The creature, eared across star systems, lowered itself even more, pressing its massive head into the sand, as if showing respect. Its glowing eyes closed for a moment, not in threat, but in surrender. The silence in the arena was unbearable. It felt as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for an answer. Why did the beast not attack? Why did it bow to a human? Aliens whispered again, but their voices trembled now. Is he controlling it? Does he hold some secret power? No, it is not control. The beast is afraid. The human spoke again, his words calm, but they carried like thunder. Your monster does not know fear of the whip. It does not know fear of death. It only knows fear of what stands unbroken before it. The beast let out a low growl, not of anger, but of agreement. The warlord's eyes blazed with fury. He could feel the crowd shifting, their fear no longer directed at the beast, but at the human. If the legend of this night spread, if the galaxy began to believe that humans could make even monsters kneel, then his control would be lost. Guards. The warlord roared, his voice shaking with desperation. Cut the beast down if you must, but kill the human. Now, dozens of armored soldiers moved, their weapons raised, charging onto the arena floor. The monster lifted its head, eyes burning with rage, not at the human, but at the soldiers. It growled deep, its massive body shifting to stand between its new master and the blades aimed at him. The human did not move. He simply stood behind the beast, calm and steady, as if he had known all along this moment would come. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some shouted to kill the human. Others begged to let him live, afraid of what might happen if they struck him down. Fear rippled through the stands, not of the monster anymore, but of the unflinching human who had turned the impossible into truth. The soldiers hesitated. The beast roared again, louder than ever, its voice carrying the weight of defiance. And for the first time in the arena's long history, the question was not whether the human would survive the monster, it was whether the aliens could survive the human. The warlord rose from his throne, his shadow stretching across the arena walls. His claws clenched so hard, the metal armrest cracked beneath them. His fangs glistened as he roared in a voice that carried through every corner of the massive pit. Obey me, beast. Tear him apart or be torn apart yourself. The command thundered, but the monster did not move. Instead, it stood protectively before the human, blocking the soldiers who had entered the arena. Its body trembled with rage, not against the man behind it, but against the guards who dared to threaten him. The crowd gasped and shouted, their voices a storm of confusion. This has never happened. The beast belongs to the warlord. No, look, it belongs to the human now. The warlord's face twisted with fury. His empire was built on fear of his soldiers, fear of his beasts, fear of his rule. But now, before thousands of witnesses, that fear was breaking. If the galaxy learned that even his greatest monster bowed to a human, his power would crumble. He cracked the electric whip again, lightning sparking through the air. The beast roared in pain, but did not turn away from the human. Instead, it lowered its head and growled at the soldiers, warning them not to step closer. The warlord's eyes blazed. His voice dropped into a growl, cold and venomous. "You think you can defy me, human? You think you can take what is mine? You are nothing." A fragile creature from a weak world. The human did not answer. He stood calm, his eyes never leaving the warlord. That silence, that unshaken calm, was more dangerous than any shouted words. It cut through the arena like a blade. The warlord snarled, his pride burning. "Very well. If the beast will not kill you, then my soldiers will." At his signal, the guards rushed forward. Dozens of armored warriors with energy spears and plasma blades charged across the sand. The crowd roared in excitement, believing the human's end was near. But the beast moved first. With a thunderous roar, it leaped forward, claws slashing through metal armor like paper. Soldiers screamed as they were thrown aside, their weapons clattering uselessly on the ground. The beast's tail whipped through the air, smashing two guards against the arena wall with a sickening crack. The crowd fell silent again. Fear crept into their voices. This was not the warlord's beast anymore. This was something new. The warlord's fury grew. Stop them all. Kill the human. Kill the beast. He screamed, but even his voice trembled now. More soldiers poured into the arena, but none dared get too close. The monster towered above them, every growl promising death. It was no longer their weapon, it was their enemy. The human finally spoke, his voice calm and steady, yet loud enough for all to hear. "You believe strength comes from chains and fear, but real strength cannot be chained. It cannot be forced." The warlord's claws dug deep into the stone of his throne. His soldiers faltered, uncertain whether to fight or run. The monster stood tall, its glowing eyes burning with loyalty to the one who had never flinched. The aliens in the stands whispered nervously, "The human commands it without chains." No, he does not command. The beast chooses him. If even the warlord's monster bows to a human, what does that make the human? The warlord's rage boiled into madness. He jumped from his throne, landing with a crash that shook the sand. His massive frame towered above his guards, his armor gleaming with spikes and plates carved from the bones of his enemies. His voice was no longer controlled, was wild. "I will show you fear, human," he roared. "I will tear you apart myself." The crowd screamed in both terror and excitement. This was no longer a show. This was war inside the arena. The warlord's massive form strode toward the pit, each step sending vibrations through the sand. His soldiers parted, giving him room. Even they were afraid of his fury. The human stood calmly, watching him approach. The beast growled, lowering itself, ready to strike, but the human placed a hand against its snout. The monster froze, waiting. The human's calm voice echoed again. "Fear is your weapon, but it is also your weakness. And now, even your beast knows who truly deserves fear." The warlord stopped mid-step, his burning eyes locked on the human. For the first time in his long reign, he felt something he never expected: doubt. The silence in the arena was unbearable. Thousands of aliens held their breath, waiting for the clash. The warlord's claws flexed. His body trembled with rage. He roared so loud, the very walls of the arena shook. "Enough, human. I will break you with my own hands." He leaped forward, claws raised, ready to strike. The crowd screamed, the beast roared, and the air itself seemed to split with tension, and yet the human stood calm, not moving an inch. His eyes burned with a quiet fire. A fire that even the warlord could feel as he closed in. The battle between fear and fearlessness had begun. The warlord's claws slashed through the air, sparks flying as they scraped against the sand. His roar echoed across the arena, a sound that had broken warriors before the first strike was ever thrown. He was a living mountain of rage, charging. With the strength of 100 battles, the crowd shouted in wild terror and excitement. "Kill him!" they screamed. "Tear the human apart!" But the human did not run. He did not flinch. He stood still, his chains hanging loose at his wrists, his eyes calm, steady, and unshaken. The warlord struck, his massive claws sweeping forward. At the last second, the beast roared and lunged, blocking the strike. Steel-hard scales met claws in a crash that shook the entire arena. Dust exploded into the air. The ground cracked beneath their weight. The human remained where he was, untouched. His calm presence burned brighter than the chaos around him. The beast growled, forcing the warlord back a step. The impossible had happened again. His own monster fought against him. The crowd gasped, voices breaking into panic. Why does it fight for the human? The beast was loyal to the warlord. No, it is loyal to strength and the human, has it? The warlord roared in fury, his voice ragged with disbelief. You are nothing, human, a weak animal. Do you think you can stand against me? The human finally spoke, his words sharp but calm, carrying across the arena like a whisper of thunder. You rule with fear, but fear is not strength. Fear is a chain. Fear is a prison, and your monster has broken free of it. The crowd fell silent. Even the warlord paused for a heartbeat. Struck by the weight of those words, the beast lowered its head toward the human again, its glowing eyes burning with strange respect. The arena that had once been filled with laughter and cheers was now filled only with uncertainty. The aliens who had come to watch a human die were instead watching a human change everything they believed about power. The warlord snarled, trying to bury the chill that crept into his chest. You dare speak to me of fear? I am fear. I am the nightmare of worlds. The human's calm eyes locked on him. No, you are a slave to it. That is why even your beast will not obey you. The warlord's fury broke. He struck again, claws slamming into the beast, tearing across its armored hide. Blood sprayed onto the sand. The creature roared in agony, but stood its ground, refusing to step aside. Its body shook with pain, yet its eyes stayed fixed on the human. Guarding him, the crowd gasped, some crying out in horror, others in awe. The beast, the undefeated terror of the arena, was wounded. It is still fought, not for its master, but for a man who had never once raised a weapon. The human stepped forward now, past the monster's trembling body. The crowd leaned closer, breath caught in their throats. The warlord's eyes widened in shock. Why was the human moving toward him, unarmed, unafraid? Every step echoed like thunder in the silence. The chains dragged through the sand, ringing like bells of judgment. The human's voice carried once more. You built an empire on fear, but true power is not making others tremble. True power is standing when no one expects you to. And that is why your beast bows to me. It knows what fear really is. The warlord's chest tightened. For the first time in his long rule, he felt something he had never admitted before: hesitation. The weight in the human's voice was heavier than any blade. His soldiers shifted uneasily, their weapons shaking in their hands. The beast let out a low growl, limping but refusing to fall. It dragged itself beside the human, standing with him as if declaring its choice. The sight was more terrifying than any act of violence. The galaxy's most feared creature kneeling beside a human. The aliens in the stands whispered in terror. If monsters bow to them, then humans are more dangerous than we ever knew. What if this is not the only one? The warlord roared again, louder than before, trying to bury his fear under rage. Enough of your words. You are no god. You are no king. You are prey, and I will show them all." He lunged once more, claws aimed straight at the human's chest. The crowd screamed, the beast roared, the soldiers tensed. But the human did not flinch. His eyes met the warlord's in the final instant, and the warlord froze mid-strike. His claws hovered inches away, trembling. Something inside him screamed to finish the attack. Yet another voice whispered louder, "Fear." It was not the fear he used to command others. It was not the fear of losing control. It was deeper, older. A fear that came from staring into something that could not be broken. The warlord's hands shook. His breath caught. His monstrous strength faltered. The human's calm voice cut through him like a blade. "Even you know it now. Even you feel it. Fear does not belong to me. It belongs to you." The arena went silent. Thousands of aliens watched, in shock as their mighty warlord, the ruler of beasts and breaker of worlds, trembled before an unarmed human. The beast growled low, its glowing eyes locked on its old master. And then it lowered itself fully to the ground, pressing its head to the sand in front of the human. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some screamed in terror, some cried out in praise, others begged for the warlord to strike. But deep in their hearts, every alien watching knew the truth. Something had shifted. The human was no longer the prey in the pit. He was the predator, and even the galaxy's monsters knew it. The arena was no longer filled with laughter. It was filled with whispers, gasps, and the sound of thousands of aliens shifting uneasily in their seats. What they had come to see was a quick, slaughtery human screaming as the monster ripped him apart. What they saw instead was the unthinkable. The monster bowed. The crowd could not believe it, but their eyes told them the truth. The beast had lowered itself before the human, chains rattling as its massive head pressed into the sand. It was not an accident. It was not hesitation. It was respect. Aliens shouted from every side of the stands, "This cannot be." Creature bows to prey. It fears him. Nowhere follows him. The warlord's face twisted in rage. His rule was slipping from his claws, and he knew it. His soldiers still surrounded the pit, but none dared to move closer. Their weapons trembled in their hands, not because of the beast, but because of the man who stood before it, calm, unshaken, untouchable. The warlord raised his voice, shouting over the storm of panic, "Silence! You will not worship this creature. He is nothing but a human, a fragile animal. He tricks you with lies, but his words no longer carried the same power." The crowd no longer looked at him with certainty. Their eyes were on the human. Their voices carried doubt. The human took one slow step forward, his chains dragging across the sand. The beast rose beside him, towering above the soldiers, its glowing eyes fixed on them with deadly warning. The air itself seemed to grow heavier. As the man spoke, "You fear the whip, you fear the chains. You fear the roar of beasts. But what you fear most," he said, his voice calm but sharp, "is the truth standing before you now." The words rolled through the arena like thunder. They were not shouted, yet every alien heard them clearly. The crowd froze, and many of them lowered their eyes, as if afraid to meet the human's gaze. The warlord roared in fury. "Do not listen to him. Kill him. Kill them both." The soldiers hesitated. None moved forward. The beast growled low, its armored body shifting, daring them to take another step. Even the bravest of the warlord's warriors backed away, their courage breaking under the weight of something they did not understand. The human kept walking, slow and steady, his presence stronger than any weapon. The crowd leaned forward, unable to look away. One alien in the stands whispered what many were already thinking. If a human can make monsters kneel, what else can they do? That single question spread like fire. The aliens who had once laughed, at the idea of a human warrior, now sat silent, their minds racing with fear and wonder. The warlord's claws dug into the sand. His empire was built on fear, but now that fear was no longer his weapon, it belonged to the human. If the truth of this moment escaped the arena, it would spread across the stars, and his control would crumble. He could not allow it. Enough. The warlord roared, his voice cracking with desperation. I will kill you myself. Guards, fall back. I need no help. The soldiers obeyed instantly, relief on their faces as they escaped the monster's reach. The warlord advanced alone, his massive frame towering over the human. He raised his claws, his armor glinting under the harsh lights. The human did not stop. He stood his ground, his eyes locked on the warlord. The beast moved to protect him, but once again the human placed a hand against its snout, commanding it. With nothing but calm presence. Stand, he whispered, and the beast obeyed. The crowd erupted into shocked cries. The human was not just surviving, he was commanding. Not with force, not with chains, but with something no alien in that arena understood. The warlord charged, claws raised high. The crowd screamed, waiting for blood. But the human's calm voice struck first, cutting sharper than any blade. You think you hold fear, but it is fear that holds you. The warlord faltered for a heartbeat, his claws trembling mid-strike. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every eye in the arena was locked on that moment. The beast roared, stepping beside the human, its voice echoing across the stands like a storm. The ground shook as it slammed its claws into the sand, sending dust flying. The soldiers backed even farther away. The warlord growled, trying to steady his hand. But his rage no longer drowned out the truth. His own people were watching him tremble. His power was breaking in front of their eyes. The crowd began to shout, not for the warlord, but for the human. Their voices were uncertain, filled with fear and awe. The beast kneels to him. The warlord cannot stop him. Humans are dangerous. The warlord's eyes burned with madness. His pride would not allow this moment to stand. He raised his claws again, preparing to strike with all the fury he had left. But the human did not move. His eyes never left the warlord, his body steady as stone. The calm was more terrifying than the monster itself, and in that silence the crowd began to shift. Their fear of the warlord was breaking. Their eyes turned to the human, not as prey, but as something else entirely. The tide was turning. The human was no longer fighting for his life. The human was changing the galaxy. The warlord's chest heaved as he stared at the human. His claws dripped with blood from the beast's wounds. His armor cracked from the clash, yet his pride refused to bend. Around him, thousands of eyes watched, and he felt them slipping. Away from his command, the crowd that once feared him now whispered about the human. He could not let this stand. I am the warlord of worlds, he growled, his voice raw with fury. I am the master of fear. You are nothing but flesh waiting to be broken. The human's steady eyes never wavered. His calm voice answered like stone cutting through storm. You are nothing without fear. Strip it away, and you are just another claw, reaching for power. The crowd gasped at the boldness. No one had ever spoken to the warlord like this. The soldiers shifted uneasily, unsure whether to attack or stay back. Even the beast, wounded and bleeding, stood tall beside. The human, its glowing eyes locked on its former master with burning hatred. The warlord snarled and raised his claws again. Then let us see whose will breaks first. He charged. The clash shook the arena. Dust exploded as the warlord's claws struck the ground where the human had stood. But the man had moved, slipping past him with calm precision. The crowd gasped. As the humans stood once more, unarmed, yet unbroken, the beast roared and lunged at the warlord, but once again the human placed his hand against its snout. "Wait," he whispered, and the massive creature froze, obeying without question. The crowd erupted in disbelief. "He commands it." "No, he does not command it, chooses to obey." The beast is his ally. The warlord spun around, his fury burning hotter. "You think standing still makes you strong? You think silence makes you more than prey?" The human met his gaze calmly. "Strength is not claws. Strength is not chains. Strength is will, and yours is already breaking." The words struck harder than any blade. The warlord's hands trembled just for a second, but enough for the crowd to notice. Whispers spread faster, louder. The warlord is faltering. He fears the human. Even his voice shakes. The beast growled low. Its body coiled, waiting for the warlord to make his move. The human did not blink. The arena had become more than a pit of blood, had become a battlefield of wills. And everyone could see which side was stronger. The warlord roared and leaped again, his claws tearing through the sand, his strength shaking the ground. He swung, with all the rage of a ruler desperate to hold on to power. The human stood still until the last instant, then stepped aside, letting the warlord's own fury drive him into the arena wall. Stone cracked, dust rained down, and the crowd gasped at the sight of their mighty leader stumbling. The human's voice carried again, soft but sharper than thunder. "Even your strength betrays you. Rage blinds you. Fear controls you." The warlord turned, his breath ragged. He could hear it now, the crowd no longer chanting his name, but whispering about the human. His empire of fear was crumbling, and he could feel it slipping through his claws like sand. He pointed at the soldiers in desperation. "All of you, strike him down. Strike them both before this madness spreads." Dozens of soldiers rushed forward. But the beast roared and slammed into the ground, sending a shockwave through the sand. The soldiers fell back instantly, none daring to face the monster. Their eyes darted to the human, and in their hearts they wondered if he was more terrifying. Then the beast itself. The human walked forward slowly, his chains dragging behind him. Every step echoed in the silence. His eyes never left the warlord. "You cannot command them anymore. They do not fear you, they fear me. Not because I hurt them, but because I do not bend." The warlord stumbled back a step, his claws twitching. He had never been spoken to like this. Never had he faced an enemy who did not tremble. His heart pounded, not with fury, but with something colder. Fear. The crowd saw it. They whispered louder, voices spreading like wildfire. "The warlord fears him. He cannot kill him. The human is stronger." The beast stepped closer to the human, lowering its head again. The soldiers froze, torn between loyalty to their warlord and the truth before their eyes. Even the air felt heavier, as if the arena itself waited for the end of this duel. The human's final words of the night cut through the silence. "Your power is gone. Your fear is mine now. And you are nothing." The warlord roared in desperation, his pride shattering, his claws raised high for one last strike. His entire empire, his throne, his name, all of it balanced on this final moment. The crowd screamed, the beast roared, and the warlord hurled himself forward with every ounce of fury he had left. The human did not move. He simply raised his eyes, calm and unbroken, and the warlord's strike froze inches away. His claws trembled, his breath shook, and the silence of fear swallowed him whole. The duel of wills was ending, and everyone in the arena knew who had already won. The arena stood in silence. Thousands of aliens watched, frozen as the warlord's claws hung in the air inches away from the human's chest. His massive body trembled. His breath came fast and ragged. The crowd had seen him crush warriors, slay champions, and command monsters. But never before had they seen him hesitate. The human had not moved. He stood calm, chains dragging at his wrists, his eyes steady, his body unshaken. His stillness was more terrifying than any roar, his silence louder than any scream. The beast, at his side, growled, its glowing eyes locked on the warlord. Blood still dripped from its wounds, yet it stood tall, ready to fight again, not for its old master, but for the man who had never flinched. The warlord's claws quivered, but they would not strike. Something inside him, deeper than rage, older than pride, screamed for him to stop. His own fear, the very weapon he had used to rule, was now eating him alive. The crowd began to murmur. He cannot strike. The warlord fears him. The human has already won. The human finally spoke, his calm voice carrying across the entire arena. You built your empire on fear. You chained beasts, you enslaved people, you broke warriors. But you never understood fear. You thought it was a weapon. You never saw it for what it really is. The warlord's claws shook harder. His heart pounded, every word slicing into him like a blade. The human stepped forward, slow and steady. The warlord stumbled back, his massive frame retreating before a man half his size. The crowd gasped in disbelief. Their ruler, their feared conqueror, was retreating from an unarmed human. The human's voice did not rise. It did not need to. Fear is not your strength. It is your chain. It is the voice that whispers in your head now. Even your monster knows it. Even your soldiers feel it. And you. He paused, his eyes burning into the warlord's. You are drowning in it. The warlord roared in desperation, a sound that shook the walls. He tried to leap again, tried to strike, but his body betrayed him. His claws froze in midair, his knees buckled. For the first time in his reign, the warlord fell. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some screamed in terror, others shouted in awe. The beast roared beside the human, its voice echoing like thunder. But it was not the roar of a Slivet, was the roar of freedom. The soldiers dropped their weapons, their eyes wide with disbelief. They no longer looked to their master. They looked to the human. The warlord knelt in the sand, his claws digging deep, his eyes filled not with rage, but with fear. His voice broke as he stared at the man who had undone him without lifting a weapon. What are you? The human's answer was calm, simple, and final. I am what even your monsters fear. The words struck the arena like a hammer. The crowd fell silent, the truth sinking into every mind. This was not just a man. This was something far more dangerous, a human who had shown the galaxy that fear could be defeated. The beast lowered itself fully, pressing its massive head into the sand. At the human's feet, the soldiers bowed next, their weapons abandoned. One by one, the voices of the crowd fell quiet. And then, like a wave, they lowered their heads too. The warlord, broken and trembling, could not lift his eyes. His empire had fallen in a single night, not to an army, not to weapons, but to the will of one man who refused to flinch. The human stood tall, the chains still on his wrists, yet he looked freer than anyone in the arena. He raised his head, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. Remember this: fear does not rule you. Fear serves you. And if you bow to it, you are weaker than the prey you mock. The silence broke. Whispers spread faster than fire, carried by every voice in the stands. Humans are not prey. They are something more. They are the predators of predators. The truth spread beyond the arena, beyond the planet, beyond the empire itself. Stories would travel across star systems, carried on every ship, whispered in every dark corner. Stories of the night when a human faced a monster and did not flinch. Stories of the night when a warlord trembled before a chained man. The warlord, once feared by galaxies, now knelt in the sand, his body shaking, his name broken. And the human, calm and unshaken, turned away, not claiming a throne, not demanding power, but walking forward, free. The beast followed, its chains dragging behind it, no longer bound by fear. The crowd parted in silence, their eyes wide, their voices hushed. They had not seen the end of a fight. They had seen the beginning of something far greater. The galaxy would never be the same. For now, they all knew the truth. Fear did not belong to the warlord. It belonged to the human.